This is a tool, and let's see. Oh, there we go. You should be able to see the first slide of my presentation here. So let's begin with a invocation. Vaktatunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. May we have blessings in our study of Ayurveda and Sanskrit. So this presentation is a combination of Vari Varga and Dugdha Varga. Vari is, of course, one of the many names for water, and Dugdha means milk. And it is basically any type of milk. So let's start with water. So rainwater, it is also called Gangambu. Why is it called Gangambu? Ganga is the river, but why Gangambu? Because there is called Akash Ganga. So there is a river in the sky. And Ganga also means that which goes from high to low. So there is a generic meaning to Ganga, as well as being the holy river Ganga, which somehow, and I to date have not figured out how this got started. It became called Ganges. I really have no idea. I'm assuming that's a Britishism. So Gangambu, or rainwater, has various important properties. It has come in contact with sunlight and moonlight and the wind. So it has properties which include jivaniya, enlivening, or improves quality of life. Now, as we're going over this presentation, and we're covering it in 1 hour, I want to talk just very briefly about each of the Sanskrit words that we're using here. Jivaniya is a form of, it comes from the verbal root jiv, to live. So jivaniya is that which enlivens, that which gives life, that which gives improvement in the quality of life. Tarpana means satiating or relieving thirst. And tarpana comes from the verbal root trip, to be satisfied. So tarpana is that which satisfies us, and it satiates our thirst. Hridya means good for the heart, and that derives from hridaya, the heart. And there's a rule for everything in Sanskrit. Sanskrit has so many rules, and that makes it actually very easy, relatively speaking, to learn for some people. It's kind of like learning mathematics. Hladi. Hladi means calming and soothing to the mind and stomach. Buddhi prabodhanam stimulates the intellect. Buddhi means intellect, right? So this rainwater will stimulate the intellect. Tanu, thin. Avyaktarasa, it has an imperceptible taste. So there is a taste in water. Water has a taste. If water has other things in it, it can give it a bad taste. I'm sure at some point we've all tasted water that was either brackish or it had a lot of iron in it. You know what I mean? If you've ever been in a part of the country where there's a lot of iron oxides in the soil and you're drinking well water, you sometimes have a really strong iron taste, and laundry clothes, white clothes always turn brown in the laundry. This is especially true in parts of the Northeast. So, but water, pure water, has a taste. It's kind of this avyakta. It's an it's an imperceptible taste, right? Krishna says in the Gita, Rasoham apsu Kaunteya. O son of Kunti, I am the taste in water, because this taste of water is amazing. When you have really nice, clean water, it just has a taste which is hard to describe, and that's what is meant by avyakta rasa. Shita, or cold. Lagu, light to digest. Amritopama, similar to nectar. It is compared to nectar. So, rainwater is just amazing. Now, obviously, if rainwater has come in contact with airborne pollutants, this is sadly all too often the case. There can be so much, pollutants in the air that the rainwater becomes contaminated. This is a problem. One of the things that was happening in the before there was more environmental regulation was that sulfur dioxides in the atmosphere were interacting with rainwater and producing a low concentration of sulfuric acid, which of course produced the infamous acid rain. And this acid rain wreaked havoc in many ecosystems. So anyway, rainwater. Yes, let's move on. So there are rules in Ashtanga Hridaya for drinking water with meals. Samastula krisha bhukta madhyanta pratamambupa. So sama means having a good balanced body, having balanced health. Bhukta madhyanta, while taking food. So if one takes water after food, it leads to obesity. Stula means having largeness of the body. Not exactly the same as the medical definition of obesity, but you get the idea. If one takes water before food, pratamambu, then krisha means thin or emaciated. So sipping water in between meals is a healthy habit. Drinking water after meals causes weight gain, and drinking water before meals can cause emaciation or weakness. Now, notice we say that, it's water should be taken in moderation when we're having food. If we feel the need for having water, we should have some. If our food is so salty that we need to drink water, then there's something wrong. We're having too much salt. We shouldn't have things that are excessively salty. This is rajasic. So the way that the Sanskrit is constructed here is, I won't go into detail, but it's a fairly common thing. But yes, you can just take this translation as is. Take my word for it. That's fine. So shitala jala, cold water. Now, of course, in the West, people think that water has to be ice cold. We want everything ice cold. Sometimes, when it's nowadays we're in Texas and it's in the middle of summer, or summer is really just heating up, the oven's just getting up to temperature, then we sometimes want to have cold water. So there are properties of cold water. It will relieve madatyaya, or alcoholic intoxication, malani, exhaustion, murcha, or fainting, chardi, or vomiting, shrama, fatigue or debility, trishna, or thirst, ushna, sun heat or a burning sensation, pitashra, bleeding conditions and pitta dominant conditions, or visha, poison. These are all things that cold water is good for. So, for example, if we are in the heat and our internal body temperature rises, there's a type of a medical condition called heat prostration. We are not able to, especially if we become dehydrated, our bodies are not able to handle a rise in our core temperature. We want to get rid of that excess heat. Otherwise, what happens is our brain literally starts to cook. This is very well known from ancient times. So we need to have water, especially when it's hot. Sometimes having cold water produces a type of shock, but it does lower the body's core temperature somewhat. But the best thing is to sip water, and water that's not ice cold. But when we say cold water, we're talking about, let's say that it's a hot day and you drink water that's around, oh, say 70 degrees. That would be cold water by the Ayurvedic definition. Okay. Shitala means like the temperature that we want, like what was room temperature in an air conditioned place. That would be considered shitala. We would not have water that is 45 degrees Fahrenheit. That is, not much above freezing. Of course, you can drink water like that, but it will tend to produce some imbalance, things that are too much different from your internal temperature. So anyway, these are some properties of cold water, and some of these are useful. But once again, I just want to emphasize the meaning of shitala is like if there's a cool breeze, right? If it is springtime and you're near the water and there's a spray of water and you have a very nice cool breeze that has some water droplets in it, and you're in the shade, that is what is meant by shitala. Shitala does not mean ice cold. It does not mean ice cold. Okay. So, this is an important point. Let's move on. Ushna jala. So hot water. Now, there are a lot of benefits to hot water. It has the benefit of deepana. It stimulates hunger. Pachana. It will help with digestion. Let me get my thing here. Yeah. Kantya. It is good for the throat. Lagu. It is easy to digest. Basti Shodana. It cleanses the urinary bladder. Hidma. It relieves hiccups and flatulence. It relieves hiccups. Adamana. It relieves flatulence. Anila. It is good for aggravation of vata. Shleshma. It's good for the aggravation of kapha, meaning it will help to pacify kapha aggravation. It's ideal to have warm water on the days of panchakarma therapy. Navajvara, a fever of recent origin. In other words, when we have just started having a fever. Kasha, cough or cold. Ama, accumulation of undigested materials. Dinasa, rhinitis or running nose. Shwasa, dyspnea, and parshvaruja, pain in the flanks. So these are all properties of Ushna Jala. Now, when we say Ushna Jala, it does not necessarily mean water that is boiling hot. It may be water that is like the temperature where we would drink tea, where we would sip it, right? So maybe not more than about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Actually, that's enough to be scalding. It would be maybe that temperature when we start, and then we'd sip it. Having some hot water in the morning is good. Also, even if the water is just warm, let's say we have water that's around 120 degrees Fahrenheit, that's not really even a temperature where you have to sip it. You could drink it more quickly. But here is the thing. Now, sometimes we have hot water in the form of tea and coffee in the morning, right? Well, what happens when you drink hot water? It also helps to promote bowel movements. It's a good thing because it gets everything moving. You've been fasting, meaning you haven't eaten during the night. You've woken up in the morning, and having hot water, it actually stimulates your digestion system. This is that Deepana and Pachana These are the Dipana and Pachana qualities. Kantya, it is good for the throat. You know, people in Western societies, they might like to drink cold things, or yeah, they might like to drink cold things, or they want to have fizzy things if they have a sore throat. But actually, like something like a hot ginger tea is really good. It is good. Some, you know, ginger tea with a little bit of black pepper and some honey. That's a very simple type of thing. You can heat up some water. You can add some. You could add some herb leaves to it. Um, and that's going to be very good for the throat. But even just having the warm water itself is going to be soothing. Obviously, it needs to not burn. So there are many benefits of hot water. What are some of the things that are described in this verse here? So, Ashtamenam shasheshena chaturtena ardekena va atava khutanena eva siddham ushnodakam vadet shleshla amavatamedoghnam basti shodanadeepanam kasa shvasa jwaraharam pitam ushnodakam nishi. And this is from Shangadhara Samhita, from Madhyama Kanda. So this is basically what we were just discussing in the previous slide, but now this is giving the Sanskrit for the properties, the benefits of having hot water. So what are the individual meanings? So ushnodakam, ushna udakam means hot water. Ushna is hot. Udakam is one of the words synonyms for water. Shleshma amavata medognam. So shleshma is mucus. It's the heavy, cold part of kapha, right? Ama, and ama is the waste that needs to be eliminated. And medas is fat. So it reduces mucus, ama, it pacifies vata, and it helps us to remove excess fat. Basti shodhanadipanam. Kasa shvasa. So if we are having kasa is a sore throat, or if we are having shvasa, some cough, or any type of congestion in the chest, this is beneficial. Jwara haram, hot water, somewhat counterintuitively, can be good for fever. Fever is our body's way of trying to raise its temperature to help in a natural immune response. And, you know, it's something that we've experienced. If you've lived in India, and sometimes it's hot and you'll have a hot chai, and it actually makes you feel somewhat cooler afterward. I think anyone who's lived in India during the summertime knows what I'm talking about. It's a little funny. It's not something that people think about in the West, because they think, oh, it's hot, I want to have something ice cold. But actually, sometimes just having a little cup of hot chai actually makes you feel somewhat cooler afterward. But you might not make it with the same amount of ginger and other things. All right, so let's break down the Sanskrit. So you can prepare hot water by heating it until it reduces to 1/8 or 1/4 part, or just heating the water till it reaches the boiling point and then letting it cool somewhat. So ashtamena amsha seshena. So ashtamena amsha seshena means that when 1/8 part is the remnant. Shesha means what's left. Chaturtenardhakenava, and it could also be a quarter, boil the water down to a quarter part, or boil it to half, right? And then these are the, so Amavata specifically is referring to Ama that is mixed in with Vata. So when Vata is carrying Ama, then this is a cause of rheumatoid arthritis. Medognam is reducing fat, Basti supporting the bladder, the urinary tract, Shodhanadeepanam, Kasa, Shvasa, Jvara, Haram, Pitam, Ushnodakam. And Nishi, drinking at night, hot water is considered to be a good idea. It is beneficial. Why? Because nighttime is a time for the body to rest, for the digestive system to rest, for us to let things have a break. We do not want to be eating a heavy meal at night. This is kind of the opposite. This is giving us a good little cleanse before we go to bed. So, and why would we make a decoction by boiling water down somewhat? This is water that has been boiled and then allowed to cool has different properties than water which is only heated up. We reduce the air, so it's not introducing air. We're just having the water, and the water has developed energetic qualities of Agni. And it's those energetic qualities of Agni that are very helpful. Okay. So these are further notes on the qualities of water. So one can prepare hot water by heating it until it's reduced to 1/8 part or 1/4 part or a half part, or just heating the water until it reaches boiling. It is beneficial in diseases like kapha disorders, amavata, decreasing fat deposition, and cleansing the urinary bladder. So this is basically the general presentation. Now, do we get the same benefits from having, let's say, an herbal tea? Yes, to a large extent, especially if it's something that we, sometimes people find that just having hot water by itself is distasteful. It's actually not. It's not any different than drinking water any other way. You have to also think of it like this is something that my body needs. And if you think of it that way, and you take it as a, almost like a medicine, or it's a thing that we really need to survive. It's a habit that we can get used to. We can get used to having hot water or warm water by itself. But if it helps, you can make an herbal tea. You want to avoid having caffeine teas like green tea or black tea at night, because that will tend to, what I learned is that, I mean, yes, I like to drink tea and coffee, but, if you have these things too late in the day, it doesn't really help you wake up in the afternoon, but it'll help you wake up around midnight when you're just trying to fall asleep. And now suddenly your mind is racing and you feel like walking somewhere because you had caffeine in the afternoon. Generally, caffeine is a good thing to avoid, but there are a lot of different types of herbal teas that are excellent, such as, rooibos tea and other things. Chamomile tea, it does have a kind of a calming effect. It's a very popular tea in the Western herbal formulary. But in any case, one way or the other, it's good to have hot water. It's best if you have it on its own, but if that's hard, you can also just make an herbal tea and have that. And you will get many of the same benefits. So what is an exception? So continuous boiling while preparing leha, oil, and ghee. Gritataila gudadishcha. So there is a rule that herbal ghee, oil, and jam medicines should not be completed in a day's time. The boiling is done on day one, and they are not completely allowed to cool down. And the Sanskrit is given here. Gritataila gudadishcha sadhayin naikavasare. Oh, prakuravanti ushita hyete visheshad guna sanchayam. So this is something that Dr. Heber gives a lot of detail on, because he is someone who actually does these preparations. So, when you get Ayurvedic herbal preparations, like if you get oil preparations, and if you get quata or a tea, these are, they will take the herbs, they will boil them in water, and they boil it down, and then they add more water and they boil it down again, and then only they will mix it with oil, sesame oil, or whatever is the oil that is being used. It's a very elaborate process, and this is given in Ayurvedic texts. So we don't try to teach this, although I think we do have some materials on it, but there are very specific ways that that these things are done. So does this rule apply when you make ghee on its own at home? No, this is only when you're making herbal ghee, special preparations. And the preparations I'm talking about, these are things that take a long time. Like, okay, this takes more than one day. So imagine this, they have a big pot, and they'll spend 24 hours basically, or not 24 hours, but it'll be all day from sunrise to sunset. And that's just day one. And they don't let it cool down completely. And then they continue cooking it on day two. So there's a lot of preparation, but this is only for these special types um, of preparations. For example, when you have a Chyavanprash, Chyavanprash is a type of preparation. We've probably all had Chyavanprash at some point. There's a way that Chyavanprash is prepared, and other types of Ayurvedic herbal preparations as well. Okay, but no, this doesn't apply when you're just making ghee. When you make ghee, you want to cook it slowly, but it doesn't take that long. In fact, the trick with ghee is that it goes so quickly when you make ghee from butter that you have to be careful not to cook it too quickly and too long. If you cook it even for a few minutes too long, then some of the butter solids get burnt in the ghee, and it does not taste good, and it doesn't keep well as well also. All right, so let's talk about dugda, or kshiravardha. So this is from Ashtanga Hridayam. Svadupakarasam snigdham ojasya dhatuvardhanam vatapittaharam vrishyam slishmalam gurushitalam. Swadupakarasa, it is sweet in taste and also at the end of digestion. So when you taste milk, and specifically, we often will boil milk. When I grew up in the West, we would not boil milk because my mom told me, well, if you boil milk, it tastes different. It's true, it does. It changes its taste. People like the taste of milk that has been homogenized without boiling, because it has a certain property of the lactose in the milk that people just prefer the taste. But in Vedic culture and in Ayurveda, we learn generally to bring milk to a boil, and then it might be sweetened just a little bit, and then we have milk in that form. But milk is naturally sweet. Swadupakarasa. Swadupakarasa. It is sweet in taste, and also it has an aftertaste. That we have these two tastes. We have the taste of something when it comes in your mouth, and also the taste in your stomach, the secondary taste as it is being digested. And some things taste sweet, but they have a sour taste in our stomach. For example, bananas. They are considered to have the sour vipak, and that is why milk together with bananas is sometimes contraindicated. So milk has both sweetness in its taste and also in its vipak. Snigdha, it also gives this rich, oily quality. It oleates and cushions joints. So having milk is very good for oleation of joints. If one has a lactose intolerance, there are still other ways that one can get this property. One may be lactose intolerant, but still able to have ghee, for example. Also, there are other things. Certain nuts also provide types of properties that are good for keeping the joints healthy. Ojo Vardhanam, increasing ojas. Ojas is, we use ojas as it is written here, OGAS, OJAS, but in Sandhi it becomes ojo, because the just becomes aha, and that aha becomes o in front of a soft consonant. Dhatu Vardhana, it nourishes and increases the body tissues. All of the sapta dhatus are nourished by milk. Vata Pittahara, it mitigates vata and pitta. It calms them. It is vrishya. It is aphrodisiac. It will increase our desire. It will increase our energy, our sexual energy. Not necessarily directly increasing our desire, but it makes us more capable of sexual activity. Shleshmala, it does increase kapha. If someone is suffering from an imbalance of kapha, with excess kapha, excess mucus, it's not a good idea to have cow's milk. It will increase kapha. It is guru. It is heavy to digest, and it is shitala, or cooling in nature. So here in the next slide, some qualities of cow's milk are given. Swadu shitam mridusnigdham bahalam slakshnapichalam gurumandam prasannam cha gavyam dashagunam payaha tadevam gunamevaoja samanyad vivardayit pravaram jivaniyanam kshiramuktam rasayanam. So these are 10 gunas of drinking cow's milk. Swadu, it is sweet. Shitam, it is cooling. Mridu, it is soft. Snigdham, it has fat, it is rich. Bahalam, it is dense. Slakshma, smooth. Pichalam, it is slimy. Guru, it is heavy. Mandam, it reduces high Agni. Prasannam, it supports happiness, calm, and clarity. Gavyam dashagunam payaha. So these are 10 gunas of drinking cow's milk. So just to break this down a little bit more, Gavyam means that which has come from the cow. So it is specifically referring to cow's milk. What the name for cow in Sanskrit is go. Okay. And go becomes Gavya, means that which comes from the cow. That's just, there's a rule of Sanskrit grammar whereby go becomes Gavya, meaning that which has come from the cow. Dasha is 10, Dasha Gunam. So we talk about 10 properties. We talk about lists of properties in Ayurveda all the time. And these are 10 qualities or gunas of drinking cow's milk. Cow's milk figures into many types of rituals as well. For example, there is a story about Aditi, who was the wife of a sage named Kashyapa. Kashyapa is one of the 7 Maharshis or great sages who came from the mind of Brahmaji, the creator, at the time of the beginning of the universe. And he is considered, he is one of the great Prajapatis. Why? Because he is the father of not only humans, but also sages and devatas, demigods. So his wife, Aditi, there's a long story, and we actually have some time, so I can tell it. One of the sons of Aditi is Indra. Indra is the ruler of Swarga, or heaven. And when we say heaven, of course, in the Vedic context, we are referring to higher planets, higher planes of existence. So, yes, there is a Kashyapa Samhita. Kashyapa has given many texts on Ayurveda. Some parts of that has come in different forms. We do not have any of the original text of Kashyapa Samhita. But Kashyapa is a great rishi. But anyway, Indra also has given some of the principles of Ayurveda, which also has come down in different forms. If you look in the material on the Parampara in Ayurveda, you'll see that sage Kashyapa is mentioned, as well as Indra, the king of heaven. But anyway, Indra had offended his guru, and his guru Brihaspati had gone away, and Indra had become weak due to not having a guru present to advise him. On the other hand, Bali, the king of the demons, was very devoted to his guru Shukracharya, and became so powerful that he was able to conquer Swarga, or heaven, and kick out Indra and all of his associates, all of the devas. They had to leave. So they were feeling some distress. They had to go in the forest, and they had to, who did they go to? Well, they went to their mother, Aditi. He said, "Oh, mother, we are in some distress. We are in difficulty. Please, what can be done? How can we regain our position? We have been given a job that we are to manage wind and rain and other things within the universe, but without having our place, then how can we do anything?" So she consulted with sage Kashyapa, and she was advised to do Payovrat. Payovrat means, let's see, I'm trying to change who this goes to. Payovrat, I'm just trying to type this here in the chat. Oh, here we go. So Payovrat means it is a type of vow that involves milk. So she was advised, perform Payovrat and worship Vishnu, who is the maintainer of the universe. And in this Payovrat, she was offering every day rice cooked in milk. That is a preparation called payasam in Sanskrit, also called kshiram or kheer in Hindi, which is really just a form of kshiram. Kshira means milk in Sanskrit, and it is, but kheer, people usually refer to milk in Hindi by the name dudh, which is from the Sanskrit dugdham. So dugdham means that which is milked, and in Hindi it has simply become dudh. Kheer means payasam, which is the preparation made from milk, which is also called payas. So Aditi was advised to do this by every day offering some prayers to Vishnu and also making an offering of payasam, rice cooked in milk and sweetened with gur, with raw cane sugar. So she was doing this every day. And as a result of the blessings of performing Payovrat, she gave birth to the incarnation of the divine Vamana. So Vamana Dev is one of the Dashavatars. And Vamana Dev went in the form of a very beautiful young boy, brahmachari, a Brahmin, and he went to beg from Bali Maharaj. So he was looking very charming, and Bali Maharaj was doing a sacrifice that would cement his position as being in the Swargalok. And Vamanadev asked Bali Maharaj, "Oh, my dear king, I want to ask from you 3 paces of land." Bali Maharaj laughed. He said, "Oh, my dear Brahman, my dear boy, you are somewhat naive. Do you know that I am the king of the 3 worlds, upper, middle, lower planets? I can give you anything you want. I could give you an entire country. I could give you a city. I could give you palaces and gold and so many things." And Vamanadev said, "Oh, my dear King Bali, don't you know that if a person does not conquer their senses and if they do not conquer desire, they will not be satisfied with any amount of material things. If we cannot be satisfied with what little we have and what we need, we won't be satisfied by having more." Of course, King Bali was very charmed by his very sweet and philosophically spot on words. And so he prepared to give the donation that was requested, to make the promise. And in making a promise, one will sip water because it is a formal promise. It is a promise I will keep to. And that taking water in the hand is a way of signifying that with the water as my witness and purifying and washing away all other improper things, I am making this promise before the entire universe. So he was preparing to do that, but his water pot wouldn't come out. His guru, Shukracharya, was trying to tell him, "Hey, Bali, don't do this. This person, I have looked at the Kundali," because, of course, Shukracharya is one of the original sages of astrology, Jyotish. He said, "I have seen that this person has come to cheat you. I think it is Bhagavan Vishnu who is your enemy. Don't give this person anything." And Bali Maharaj said, "Oh, but my dear Gurudev, don't you know I have already made the promise. I cannot go back on my word. I have already said I will do this." Shukracharya said, "No, no, there's a loophole because you did not say Om before making the promise. You can say that it is invalid." But Bali Maharaj felt, no, This is not right. I cannot use this kind of technicality and loophole to get out of a promise. A promise is a promise. And then Vamanadev was there and he said, "Oh, Bali Maharaj, please give me your pot. I will fix it." He took a blade of sharp grass and he poked it in, and some blood came from the eye of Shukracharya because Shukracharya was using some mystical tricks to keep the water from coming out. Then Bali Maharaj was able to take the water and he said, "Okay, I donate you 3 paces of land." But Vamanadev, being the Sarva Shaktiman, the possessor of all energies and the original supreme person, now he went from being a little boy to taking a gigantic form. And he became bigger and bigger and bigger. And with his first step, he covered all of the planets from lower to middle. And with his second step, he covered all of the upper planets. And his toe pierced the covering of the universe. And some of the water from the causal ocean where Mahavishnu lies came in through that hole, forming the celestial river Ganga. And then he said to Bali Maharaj, he said, "Oh, Bali, you have not kept your promise. You promised me 3 paces of land. I have only taken 2, and now there is no place for me to put my third step." But Bali Maharaj was actually, although he was the king of the demons, he had very good qualities. And so he said to Vamanadev, he said, "Oh, Vamanadev," because he recognized, yes, this is Bhagavan Vishnu, this is the supreme person, and he has come to take everything from me. But what was his response? "You please put your third step on my head. Claim me as yours." Because he recognized we don't actually own anything in this world. We come for a short time. We will take whatever we can, but at some point, everything will be taken from us. And this is the supreme person before me, that person from whom all blessings come. And if they are taking from me, there's nothing I can do to stop. And actually, I want to just give myself and surrender, and I should surrender to the divine. And so this was the example of Bali Maharaj. Well, that's getting a little bit off the tangent, talking about Payasam and Payovrat. But this was the purpose of Aditi having Payovrat. She wanted to have Bhagavan, Bhagavan Vishnu, she wanted to have Bhagavan Vishnu come as her son, to have this relationship of being the mother and nurturing. So that Payovrat is based on milk, and specifically the cow's milk. So there are so many gunas from drinking cow's milk also. It is said in Vedic culture that cow's milk gives us special type of refined intelligence. And I know it is a difficult thing because many people suffer from lactose intolerance, but cow's milk does actually have many good properties. And intelligence, according to Vedic culture, is something that goes on a very high and subtle level. And certain things, it is not just that having any type of nutrition nurtures our intelligence. If we're talking about intelligence as something that lets us solve math problems, then yes, it doesn't matter that much. But if we're talking about intelligence as the type of refined intelligence that gives us the ability to discriminate between what is right and what is wrong, and how to be better humans, and how to live more in harmony with nature and with the universe. For that type of intelligence, we actually get more of a benefit from having milk. That is just the general position in Vedic culture on cow's milk. Now, in Ayurveda, we talk about other types of milk as well. Buffalo milk, for example, which is more fatty, more creamy. Goat milk, which is higher in vata, and it will tend to increase vata. For example, for a kapha person, they may have cow's milk more sparingly, but they may also have goat milk because goat milk is not going to increase kapha. Cow's milk will definitely increase kapha, but it is good to have some. And if someone is lactose intolerant, of course, they can have lactose reduced milk, but it's really not quite the same. Also, sometimes people who are lactose intolerant are able to handle ghee and yogurt as well. There's also a concern with cow's milk to have milk from dairies that do not kill the cows when they're done giving milk. And it for us, it's a very sad and unpleasant thing, but it is very, very difficult to find a himsa dairy. um, Really, you have to be near someone who's very committed, and you pay extra, obviously, because you are paying when the cow is done with her life of giving birth to calves and having her milk uh, taken, and she's not able to do that. Then you're paying for her to get put out to pasture and to have the remainder of her life lived in peace. And that's what we believe is the proper way to do things. So, I mean, honestly, I don't mind paying a bit more to have milk produced that way. Unfortunately, there's no market for it in the US. It's very, very hard to find ahimsa dairies. You'll just find here and there somebody is doing that. In India, you can get ghee that is produced because um, in India, cow slaughter is not allowed. It is illegal because culturally we respect the cow as mother. And when growing up, I would hear oh, India is the place where they worship the cow. But no, it's not the same. It's like you worship your mother. You respect your mother, and the cow is considered mother. So these are just some of the properties of milk and some things about cow. Um, I think that we are. If there are any other questions, then let's have it. Um, and otherwise, I think we will end there. Thank you and namaste. All right, that's it.